Hi, I'm Garm1, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowdfunding Show. I'm here today with Adam, Alexi, and Brew. How's it going?
Hello.
Hi, it's going well.
And welcome back, Adam, by the way.
Thank you.
So, y'all are here to talk about Demiverse. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
So I'm Adam, I'm the project manager, and these are two of the writers on the project. We've we just were funded yesterday, and I think it's sitting at just over $7,000. Um, but these are only two of the writers. We have like 50 of them waiting in the wings. um, because we will just keep making this book bigger and bigger, adding more and more writers to the project based on how much we fund. So I'm really excited to have Rue and Alexi with me. But just so you know, this is just a small sampling of how many people are on the project. But Rue and Alexi and we already have our demiplanes funded, um, so that's really exciting, especially since we just launched like 2 days ago. So
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
yeah, yeah, we're really grateful to the community that's already supported us, and we have like a bunch of followers that I think are just waiting till their next paycheck or something. So it's exciting. So about Demiverse, I'm just going to give a quick broad intro, and then I definitely want to hear from Alexi and Rue because they have exciting demiplanes to unveil to us. So I had the idea. First of all, I've never really liked most campaign settings. I think one or two got pretty close to scratching the itch for me, but I've always like been interested in like, oh, why do you like that campaign setting? Um what makes it like yours and your preferred one? And I always felt a little jealous of people who had their own like campaign setting. So I decided that I would sit down and try to figure out what exactly it is that I really wanted. Um and I realized it wasn't any one thing. I wanted a world that you could just pick up and run with it, without having to know. Oh gosh, like if I think about some other campaign settings, like the Forgotten Realms, it's like over 5 editions and tons of out of print material, and I always felt lost. I was just like, this isn't for me because I'm completely lost. And a lot of other campaign settings are the same way. So I didn't want that, and and I wanted something that could like tell all the different kinds of stories I wanted to tell. Because I'm a lifelong GM, and I just want to like be able to go wherever and do whatever and change theme and genre whenever I need to. Um, and I decided that the best way to do all that is to just make a collection of demiplanes that are all loosely connected by gates, and have every demiplane like really unique and interesting, very different from the others. But like it's not immersion breaking because you go from one to the other, and like of course it would feel different. This is an entirely different world. We're just going through this gate, and they're also small, so you don't have to worry about like knowing everything about this enormous world. Um, you can just like sort of go, okay, I know this demiplane is the size of a room, or this demiplane is the size of a state in the United States or something, and that's it. That's all I have to think about. And it has like this really cool theme and vibe, and I can like um yeah, and then explore. And when you're done exploring one, you go to another, or you could like spend an entire campaign in just one demiplane if you want, if the players are really interested in that place. So that's kind of the broad overview. So I hired all these people because I knew I couldn't be that creative on my own, definitely. But I also think there's a having a lot of different lived experiences and a lot of diversity in a team like this gives you so much. What do I want to say? Like it'll give you such a variety of experience, and that's a real strength to any project, but especially one like this. Um, and I don't know, we can just dive right into some of these. Alexi, do you want to tell them about yours?
Yeah, sure. So the demiplane that I'm writing is the Tangle, and it is essentially when this whole big explosion of the multiverse happened, and different pieces of planes smushed together and all that into the Demiverse. You take old growth forests of various stripes and ecosystems, and you take something like the Feywilds, and you basically just have a enormous forest and nothing but forest, and it keeps going, and it's just more forest. And the idea behind it was less a forest that, for example, takes a wide swath of land horizontally and it's just trees all the way up and down. So, picturing something like the ocean, where you keep going vertically down and it gets darker and darker, more and more branches get in the way of sunlight. If you go up, you get closer to the canopy, the branches start getting more cluttered. You get very different ecosystems just in vertical slices of this ginormous forest going in all directions. And that was something I was very excited got picked up because I am a big nature and ecology nerd. And I love the idea of being able to explore just all the different types of adaptations, something that would come out of a magical, vertically spaced forest might have to come up with. And very excited for that.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, so like down below you've got like yeah, probably more mushrooms and fungal kind of stuff
Yeah,
with
and
no.
like picture also even trees growing on trees, like air plants might have to, because there's no soil in the Tangle either. It's just once you get down to the forest floor, you're dealing with like roots or maybe even just specialized branches tangling into each other. And so you're dealing with animals that squeeze into these tight spaces, but then in the middle levels, you have animals that might have to fly or glide between wide open spaces between tree trunks, and on like that.
So in some sense the Tangle's also a single tree because of, you know, how things kind of merge together and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like that's absolutely a fascinating way to picture it too, because like the even the name, the Tangle, it's all connected. It's all very interwoven as an ecosystem and in a way an entity.
Trees are messed up. You just cut
These
branches
are
off.
really weird,
You
yeah.
could just cut branches off and like tape them to something else it'll eventually attach. And that's weird.
Yeah, and that's how we get like weird fruits and other things, and that's not even talk about the biological warfare that trees wage on each other too.
Yeah.
Like,
I really like the phenomena with trees where when a very large old tree dies, a circle of new trees grow like in a perfect circle around it
mhm.
because they like take the nutrients that that particular tree was using.
Oh yeah, like I grew up in like literally backed up to a wildlife preserve, and we used to be able to just I used to walk out of my backyard and be able to walk in a forest. And I remember living in Florida, we get a lot of really violent storms, and after a hurricane, a lot of the larger trees that were being used by vines to reach the sun had fallen over because they had grown so large that all of the vines and kudzu and stuff like that were using them to reach the sunlight, but weren't using the smaller trees that couldn't reach the sun as easily. So what you have happen is these larger trees are weakened by the storm, fall over, and suddenly there's this explosion of new growth where the canopy has broken open. And that sort of phenomena of just kind of a ruthless nature, but also really beautiful in a way, is definitely what I'm excited to explore with the Tangle.
Awesome. So Rue, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Grand Observatory?
Yeah, so my demiplane is the Grand Observatory, and um, if you are to perhaps imagine the demiplanes as existing one on top of the other, that's not really how it works, but if you were to imagine that for a moment, the Grand Observatory intersects them perpendicularly. So no matter what demiplane you are in, the Grand Observatory intersects with it in a perpendicular manner. It is a tall wizard tower, essentially, that is designed as a research laboratory. It's run by a tiefling wizard named Vellum, and their whole goal is to research the demiplanes and sort of look back into um the fracturing and see what, not necessarily what caused it, but what effects it had everywhere. And so their mission and the mission of the folks that are also working and researching in the Grand Observatory is to take pieces of magic or creatures or elements from one demiplane and release them into another demiplane. Um, and see how the demiplanes react to having pieces of them brought into other worlds. So there's a lot of research into like the different kinds of creatures that are found across demiplanes, as well as what happens when you take magic from one demiplane and introduce it to another one.
Right, because the laws of magic may differ between them, and chemistry may work in some places but not others.
Not others, yeah.
Yeah.
And physics affects them all differently. So what happens when you take a creature from a demiplane where there's low gravity and put it into a demiplane where gravity is constant? Things
Dear.
like that.
Nothing good.
Nothing good.
I think it breaks their limbs.
Pancaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Vellum is interested in seeing what happens for science.
So Vellum is not a ethical researcher, I take it.
Necessarily, I wouldn't say that they're like a horrible person, but if they can figure something out via an experiment that might not necessarily be the most humane to the creature involved, they will do it.
What happens if I put these in cages with wire mothers and cloth mothers and see what happens?
I love the hex art for the observatory,
It's
by the way.
beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
so fascinating to look at. I'm so excited for people who are backing the project now to look closely at it and be like, whoa, that's a detail in there.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was working with Adam and with the artist to just picked it, because at first we were considering having it be the tower itself coming up out of the hex, but that didn't really like put forth the image that I wanted, because the tower isn't important. Like the exterior of the tower is not what matters; it's what's happening inside. So we went with a vision instead that was, you just see like essentially like a slice of 3 of the floors of the tower, and you see the different experiments that are happening on those floors at that moment in time.
Yeah, you can see some plants growing and some bread, something.
If you have a larger file of it open, there's like little creatures in cages, and there's like chemistry sets on the desks and stuff. It's absolutely amazing. When I saw the line art for it, I was like floored at how good it was at capturing what I wanted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sal.
the artist. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think we were about to say the same thing. Honestly, Sal was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
like-
the artist is Fernando Salvaterra, and he's just, or Salvaterra, and he's just phenomenally talented. I'm sure he worked really hard to get to this point, but now we just like look at his artwork and like, how did you do that? You know, he takes the tiniest, you know, written detail and then makes it come alive. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, these are all beautiful. And they're hexagons, the best shape.
Yes.
That is an objective fact.
It's so satisfying how they fit together, like when Adam was putting them on the Kickstarter page and how they just all kind of slot together. It's extremely satisfying to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the first stretch goal got funded, right? Is that Derelict Station?
Yeah, we got the first stretch goal funded, Liam Swan's Derelict Station, which just looks beautiful because it's this
so amazing
crumbling train station with all different kinds of trains, like an old steam locomotive and a modern electrical one, and they're like broken tracks and crumbling masonry, and all of it's set against this starry background. I'm like, so awesome.
And the art also breaks the hexes in some places, so putting the derelict station hex where like you can see the tracks going to the different hexes around it is amazing.
It's very good.
There's a lot to be excited about with this project, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a sucker for demiplanes. I think they're my favorite part of D&D. There's just so much that you can do with them. It's like, hey, here's a weird little, like, a train station. Here's, like, an observatory where you can see frightening chunks of the multiverse. Like,
I know, right? And you don't have to like worry about how it interacts with anything else because it's just like this one thing. Like it's like, yeah, it only stretches 150 miles in that direction or only 10 miles wide, but and so it's got its own like laws and properties that don't have to, combine or interact with anything else until those adventurers walk through a gate, I guess.
here's a weird mechanic that only affects this place. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we have that free reign to just run amok.
So how did the Demiverse come about in, I guess, both in the fictional sense and the real world sense?
So in the fictional sense, there used to be a multiverse on the planes where time runs normally. I guess it was about 200 years ago, and then there was some unexplained phenomenon called the fracturing that just broke everything apart, and everything went spinning off fifth dimensionally in all different directions, and some of it collided and reformed. Like the one I'm writing, a piece of a piece of the celestial realm, like just a big comet size, slammed into this otherwise completely normal world, and then all these people are worshiping this rock because it's really cool, but it's also just a rock, but it kind of functions as a god as well. So there's this strange religion that's popped up, and people are now worshiping. And on the hex you can see like in the middle of this town like this enormous boulder that's just glowing, lighting up half the town.
Excellent.
So but we are purposely leaving the fracturing vague. We will have hints and pieces, and I encourage players and GMs to theorize and postulate and try to figure out what caused the fracturing based on but no one knows for sure. And that's kind of an exciting mystery to try to unravel.
I'm gonna lay it at the hands of Vellum until I hear otherwise.
It might have been.
So, in the real world sense, how did the Demiverse come about?
It was just an idea. I threw it out on Twitter. People started to like it and comment on it, and one of our stretch goal writers, Eleanor Jordan, was like, "You should do this, and I would like to be a part of it." And I was like, "Okay." So I put everything else that I had planned on doing on the back burner because I really, really liked this idea. I wanted to make this, so I just put it at the front of everything that I was working on, and just put a call out. I just said I need writers, and over 100 people applied. No, over. Wait, I only got to pick up 10, so over 500 people applied, and I had to choose 50 because everyone like it was so hard. Everyone was so creative. So you're already seeing the 10%, and then these two people with me are like tippity top.
I've certainly gotten that impression from talking to them. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're totally fine. I agonized over my application for like 3 days. I had the Google Docs form open for like 3 days trying to get the wording correct on what I wanted to do. Because I knew I wanted, and my original concept, I called it a panopticon, which is what it is technically. Because a panopticon is like the tower in the center of a base where you can like look out the windows and see everything. but I changed that conceptually to be a little less grim for the thing itself, because panopticons tend to have pretty grim
Authoritarian connotations.
authoritarian connotations. Yeah.
It's not the Facebook of the multiverse.
Now I am interested in knowing what the Facebook of the multiverse is.
Multiface? First book?
Something gross.
I like multi-face. That's excellent.
You took the two halves of the words that make the least sense together.
Naturally, yeah. It's like there were lots of Transformers with multiple faces.
That is true.
Demi-face.
Demi-face. That one I don't know. I don't know what that one means.
Honestly, I was just really excited to see a project, an open call go out that was so open to different ideas. It's very rare and exciting when a project like this happens, because there's so little opportunity unless you're self-publishing to put a big idea out there and see it happen. And having it be 50 of these concepts in one book is just so cool and so fun.
Right, it's like an anthology.
Yeah, but it all puts itself together, but kind of doesn't, and it's an anthology, kind of.
I don't have a cunning portmanteau for this one, I'm sorry. Demithology.
We should probably, since we already talked about Fernando's hex maps, we should probably talk about the character illustrator, who is Saphira. I think is how you pronounce that. But they did an amazing job of portraying some of the people who you might encounter. Alexi, yours looks like a snake with 4 eyes and horns or antlers. I'm not sure. Do you want to talk about what that is?
Well, physically, it is a snake with 4 eyes and antlers and moss growing all over its body, his body. I don't know. You might have to ask. But yeah, the stuff in the Tangle is weird, and when Adam initially said, "Hey, we have an artist to draw the people you might meet in the Demiverse, so give your ideas," and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think the people, if you find any in the Tangle, would be the most interesting things you find here. So I started trying to think, okay, what's something cool and animal-ish and freaky to just run into? And a giant emerald tree boa that sees all, knows all, and eats all sounds about right for that ticket.
Yeah, no,
so awesome.
That definitely
Love
fits the
snakes.
bill.
So I'm thrilled to see what your all-knowing snake is like.
I was so excited to see the art too, because I was starting to get nervous because I'm like, oh no, I asked for a snake and everyone else asked for people, and then I saw the art for the snake and it looks so good. And as a snake enthusiast, I heartily approve of the all-knowing snake thing.
Because boas
Totally
have,
works.
like, boas and ball pythons both have those faces that are kind of not smart looking. Like
Don't
boas
they?
do not look like they know everything, but this one does.
Boas usually look like they have the Wii Shop theme playing on loop in their head constantly.
That's a very good description.
It's the extra pair of eyes. That's where the all-knowingness.
Yeah, it's where all of the knowledge gets stored.
Right.
Got like the Odin thing going on where it can see everything. I got you.
And I love tieflings with 2 sets of horns. So
Yeah.
that was a big win for me.
Yeah, when I was designing Vellum, well, I love tieflings. I should open with I love tieflings.
I couldn't tell by the hoodie.
If I could change my physical human body to perfectly encompass my actual gender, I would be a tiefling. But to compensate for that, I just designed tieflings. But yeah, so when I was designing Vellum, I was like, I want their horns to be like really big and kind of majestic. And so I went with Jacob's sheep horns, because Jacob's sheep have one set that goes straight up, and then the other set curves around down by their face. And Saphira did a beautiful job of like texturing them and making them really frame Vellum's face. I went with sort of like a early middle age for Vellum, because I feel like a lot of the time, and it's something I'm super guilty of. Like, we design young D&D characters and young like D&D figures, but like there are people who are older and have been doing this for a long time too. And so I wanted Vellum to have that look of like, no, they're not like some 25-year-old fresh-faced mage. They're in their hundreds, and they've been around almost as long as the fracturing, and they want to know what happened to lead up to this.
They also look so fancy.
Yeah. I was like, they wear really fancy robes with like gold embroidery, and Saphira gave me really fancy robes with gold embroidery, and I was like,
The dream.
yeah, living vicariously through my morally ambiguous wizard.
Hey, who wouldn't?
I don't remember whose demiplane the vampire is the art for, but that piece of art is phenomenal. It's like a vampire with a crown of antler thorns. And I saw that one in the like server and on the page when we were planning it, and I was like, I want to play in this demiplane immediately.
Oh,
There
and we
goes
lost Adam again. Don't worry, these things, they happen. So, do you two have anything else you'd like to highlight? Welcome back, Adam, while we're here.
Gremlins. Oh yeah, so what Rue was talking about is Blackwood, which another demiplane. And I don't know what that character's name is, if they have one.
I'm not
But
sure.
it's like a Sylvan horror demiplane, if you can picture that. Like, the Hex is a blood red tree with all of these humanoid bones hanging from it. And then the rest is just shrouded in mist. And I guess there are vampire thralls that are deeply connected to nature there. And that's why you can see like those veins running through the vampire's face kind of look like tree branches. So we'll find out when all is said and done, and Cat Elm which is another one of our writers, when they've finished detailing that strange and probably terrifying world.
Yeah, and that's the other one of the like 4 core entries, so that will be seen for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That one's funded already.
I do want to give a shout out to perhaps I maybe I shouldn't say this, but one of my favorite character arts is definitely the one for the Derelict Station, which is pretty much the steam whistle wearing a conductor's hat.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, I don't know who this is. I will give them my train ticket though. I trust them with my life.
Yeah,
maybe you shouldn't trust them with your life.
Maybe that's a good policy, but I have a weakness for anthropomorphic train whistles, I guess.
That's really specific. Although I think that's a Power Ranger or Super Sentai character in one of them, I'm pretty sure.
This whole thing has been a journey of discovery.
Yeah, really.
Like, I really can't judge you because I designed Vellum, and I know they're an amoral wizard, but I would still like be like, yeah, I'll take part in your experiment.
Does Vellum have interns?
Vellum does have interns, yeah. One of the things I'm considering for like when I do the writing for my demiplane is like a little side thing of like if your party wants to stay here longer, if you want to like work under Vellum and see what it's like to be one of their researchers.
Roll to lose a limb. Which plane do I have to take you to reattach this?
Oh no.
Let's find out. Sorry, Adam.
No, it's fine. I'm just my mind is in the Demiverse now. I'm trying to think what else we can highlight. People who couldn't make it, or so we talked about Liam Swans. There's also Andrea Knight is making Zephyr, I believe it's called, which is a city in the clouds. And I get the feeling that the city in the clouds has always sort of been there even before the fracturing. But what's new is the river Styx, that's supposed to be in hell, has now been like thrown into the heavens and is now coursing airborne, just flowing above this city, and it's like full of everything that the dead have dropped. The gold coins that are placed over their eyes, or the bribes they gave to who's the one who rows you across? I can't remember
Charon?
right now. Charon.
Charon, yeah.
I can never
And that's
pronounce
why
it right.
you can see on like the hex, it's like this inky black river, but it's got like these flecks of gold and other glints in there. And so it's kind of like all these genie and Aragonasi or Genasi, or however you pronounce that, are like, oh, maybe we should go and figure this out. But it sticks, right? It's going to be a treacherous place. And this is not, I mean, there's kind of like a gold rush of sorts, but it's also like fraught with danger because Styx is going to betray you. I just know it. And then there's Stephen Jakeman is writing The City of Clay, which I get the impression is like this really industrial hellscape almost, where people are trying to, like, it's been pockets of energy are throughout that demiplane. People are trying to harvest them, so it just sounds terrible. but but a lot, I mean, but by design, I think there's a lot for adventurers to do there. And then we just announced, we just put on the page a little teaser for a new one by Beth and Dave, who are a married or at least partnered couple. And they're writing Morning Dove Palace, which is like a palace in its grounds, and that's the entire demiplane, and it's taken over by Fae. And what fetes and balls and dinner parties you might have there, who can say?
There's so many more.
Yeah,
that
we
are
have
related.
so many surprises.
It seems like they all very much live up to the weirdness inherent in the premise. Maybe not weirdness, but like the interestingness. The Gonzo is not quite the word, but like wacky. You're gonna go with wacky. Wild.
Yeah.
All
one of those apply.
One of the big things I definitely like about the concept of the Demiverse, it is post pan-apocalyptic. Stuff did explode a lot all over the place in every direction. So some planes you really see that emphasized, and some kind of go on as mostly business as usual, and some are just a little bit weird about it.
Yeah, for sure. As you do. I also greatly appreciate the note that the smallest known one is a 5 foot by 5 foot tile. I chuckled at that.
You have to. I mean, you have to.
And then once you get there, you cast Fireball.
Naturally, yeah.
That was because I did the narration for the trailer, and that was like when I did my first read through of it, I like stumbled on that line because I was so caught up in the notion of being in a space that was only 5 feet by 5 feet as a whole demiplane that I like had to scrap that whole recording because I was like, oh, a 5 foot space, huh?
I'm imagining it's basically going to be the equivalent of like a phone booth challenge with your entire party if you go through that gate.
You open the gate to the 5 foot by 5 foot cube, and good luck.
It's somebody's closet. That's it. Interdimensional, accessible from anywhere closet. The dream.
A nightmare if it's your closet. Like, imagine you're just trying to go get your clothes in the morning, and there's a party of adventurers. We're like, sorry.
Well, this is a much crappier Narnia.
Very good.
Because it is just the wardrobe. You're like, oh,
No.
it's all wardrobe everywhere.
At least there's not a lion and a witch in here too.
I'm sorry, that was all me. I inflicted that on Rue. I was like, and what would be the smallest demiplane? Obviously, a 5 foot by 5 foot dungeon tile.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of like looking out 5 feet and then that's where the universe ends. You're like, oh, oh no.
That's how to give your character an existential crisis immediately.
Like,
oh, are you worried that there's not enough existentialism in your campaign? Just put one of your characters in a 5 foot hexagon. That's it.
We might not even detail that particular demiplane. It's enough to know that it exists out there, because who wants to be there?
Yeah, no, for sure. That's where you plane shift something to, and that's it.
The poor man's imprisoned spell.
And the Kickstarter notes that, you know, this is the actual rules content is fairly sparse, so you can run this with 5e, Those Who Wander, or I'd probably even some OSR stuff if you really want to.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of like 5e specific or Those Who Wander specific content in there, but it's going to be like 10 or 20% of the book at most. I gave the writers the option of not putting any mechanical or rules language in there if they want, and then like you could totally run it with a different game system. Totally, very doable.
Right on, right on. So, anything else y'all would like to bring up about Demiverse while we're here?
Oh man,
always it's the hardest question in the interview every time.
I just want to emphasize it's only going to get better as the project goes on and the funding goes on.
Let's give an exclusive sneak peek at what might be ahead.
Those are several of my favorite words.
I'm just gonna pull some parts out. Their Nighthold is a demiplane that is a tall, imposing obsidian castle that's run by a vampire empress.
Ooh.
Ulop is a demiplane of magical puddles and bubbles and sparkles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Landir, also called the Land of the Beast, is the domain of an alpha predator, something gargantuan. So as soon as you're there, you're being hunted.
Did you say an elf predator?
Alpha.
Alpha.
Which is kind of.
I thought you said an elf predator, and I was like, scared.
Yeah. Gargantuan elf.
Primal fear.
Finally snapped after the years of knife ear quips.
There's a mist-shrouded plane where where there's just an enormous battle every day, and then at night the warriors who fell rise up again, and they live on to fight another day.
Yeah, good old Valhalla.
Let's see. There's a bus, just a bus, that runs through all the demiplanes, and people get on and off, and you just have to pay your fare. That's one of those kind of like the Great Observatory, Rue's Great Observatory, but another one where it's just like another way to get around besides gates. And I love the idea of like sitting down next to someone and going, "Well, you're new. What's your story? Which demiplane are you from?"
They open their mouths and just bees come out.
Yeah, or something like that. there's a demiplane that's entirely sewers. Uh,
Sewer
a
level.
huge metropolis was ripped away, and all that remains are these sewers, and everything lives there. And there is one demiplane that is a dungeon, a bona fide dungeon. But as far as I understand it, they've all the monsters that were in there have had such a long time to sort of like they've like developed a society and culture, and so they like there's this ecosystem and there's this balance and there are these factions, but they're all like sort of like, and it's called Underhome, and as far as I understand it, it's all these monstrous individuals, but but they don't operate like what you would expect to find in a Gary Gygax dungeon, I think.
So you have a dungeon demiplane. Do you have a dragon demiplane that's just like the inside of a dragon?
Lair of the Lava Dragons is one of the demiplane names.
Pretty up there, yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are more dragons than that, but that one kind of sticks out. So
Dragons are good. Dragons are cool. We all like them.
Especially lava dragons.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Nothing scarier than something that lives in a volcano.
Yeah, these are all stretch goals that are coming up.
Yep.
And we really, 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 really want to see them in that book.
And you, dear viewer, can help these people achieve that by backing the Kickstarter at the link below.
That's right.
Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to bring up before we, say goodnight, or say good middle of the day, because it's like 2 p.m.
It can be good night if you want it to be. I'm gonna go take a nap.
Heck yeah. And on that note, have a good night, everybody.